We'll hear why he thinks gun supporters and their rights never stood a chance in this debate underway in Connecticut. Connecticut lawmakers just agreeing on the toughest gun restrictions in the country. Ahead, we will speak to a man who gave up 3 days of his own time, took off work, to go to try to testify before these Connecticut lawmakers, urging them not to do this, and why he now believes that the gun owners actually never had a chance.
He's right.
There aren't any gaps in the system every time something goes wrong, every time a crime is committed. Sometimes things are beyond your control. You can't control everything. Evil exists. This is the third day I've taken off of work to come here to, like so many of the rest of us, plead to you for us to keep our guns because of the actions of some wingnut in Newtown, Connecticut. If that isn't inherently wrong, I don't know what is. That these bills are even in proposed form is scary enough. That any of you could be possibly undecided is scary enough. What are you looking at? I applaud those that took so-called Firearms 101.
Well, that was Robert Steed testifying last month during hearings in Connecticut on the proposed gun control law there. He's a regular guy, a gun owner who believes strongly in his constitutional rights. In fact, he believes so strongly that you heard him say he gave 3 days from his job to argue for those rights. But now the Connecticut lawmakers have apparently just reached a deal on what's being called the most restrictive gun rules in the country. Mr. Steed is disappointed. He joins us live now from Hartford. Robert, great to see you. And so I know obviously you're disappointed, but I want to talk to you about the points that you were making as Connecticut gets ready to pass a law. Just so our viewers know, it would create the nation's first gun offender registry. It would require universal background checks for all gun purchases. It would ban the sale of large capacity ammo magazines. And magazines that are now legally owned will have to be registered with the state. So your reaction to that?
Well, I hope we all feel much safer that I am going to register high-capacity magazines and firearms that I've lawfully owned for 15 years. I hope everybody feels safer about that.
You talked about in your testimony that you thought if they did this, if they passed this, the official votes are going to take place on Wednesday, that it would be a victory, another victory, you said, for Adam Lanza, which you called despicable. How so?
How so? Well, one thing that we know about these types of mass murderers is that they look for the limelight, they look for immortality through their own atrocities. And for legislators to only find a political response to somebody else's atrocities, it's just more victories for the perpetrator of the crimes and more punishment for those that have done nothing wrong to begin with. And that, to me, is fundamentally flawed. It's not America. In
that clip we ran before we went to break, you were talking about evil, you know, trying to prevail upon the lawmakers to see, as you put it, that evil exists. And you said, Adam Lanza commits a crime, and now I'm here to grovel and plead for my rights and explain to you that my firearms are kept safely. You can't find a broad brush solution to evil. Do you think that's what folks have been grappling with here?
Well, I don't know who you're referring to as folks. If you're talking about the lawmakers.
Lawmakers.
Yeah, sure. If we're talking about the lawmakers, the only thing that they apparently know how to do, Megan, is pick out the easy targets for political responses. Those easy targets, excuse me, are always the lawful, transparent, peaceful gun owners. The mere nature of who we are makes us easy targets. In the state of Connecticut, I believe the population of this state that owns firearms is about 16%. So they know, therefore, that there's really no voter demographic challenge to whatever they want to do to peaceful gun owners in this state.
Mm-hmm. You know, the folks who have looked at Newtown, who are on the opposite side of this issue, they point out that Adam Lanza did what he did in that classroom, in that school, within 5 minutes. And he killed 26 people, including 20 children, within 5 minutes. And they talked about this high-capacity ammo, you know, as part of the reason he couldn't have unleashed so much carnage in such a short time if he didn't have that kind of ammunition. Your thought in response to that?
My thought in response to that is this. This was a systemic failure and breakdown inside that Lanza household long before December 14th. If we want to find a solution, and it's not going to be a political one, but your good friend Bill O'Reilly has mentioned plenty of times, it's the breakdown and degradation of the family in America. And if we can get back to that, maybe some spirituality, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but we need some family cohesiveness. We need intervention early on before it ever gets to the point where someone like an Adam Lanza can get his hands on weapons that, if misused, can cause these types of devastations. My weapons will never do such a thing. Megan, if you're a gun owner, your guns will never create such a travesty.
And yet,
99.
and yet some, you know, the media, in your view and in the view of many, bears some responsibility here, because what do we do in the wake of these shootings but create martyrs out of these killers? And to some extent, that gets in the head of the next killer who wants attention.
Megan, I'm very happy that you mentioned that. In fact, I didn't know whether or not you, as a member of the media, would take offense to that remark during that testimony.
It's true.
I think that anyone who works in an institution of society, whether it be government, whether it be media, religion, or what have you, any of the pillars of our society, we all have a responsibility as to how we conduct our jobs, and maybe we should be less focused on the actual procedure, whether or not we're performing the procedure correctly, but start taking a long, hard look at whether or not the procedure itself is effective and appropriate.
Yeah, the media needs to have a discussion about how we can do better, not blaming us, but we have a role in the wake of these things, and I don't know that we're living up to it. Robert, thank you for being here.
Megan, can I add one quick thing?
Quickly, hard break.
There will be a Liberty rally on April 20th at the state capitol in Connecticut.